May be the most important presentation I make this year, and so it's too bad that most of the students aren't here. I hope they will watch the video version of this. A lot of our students are not coming on time, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here that you guys are here in time, and you're usually here in time, and I appreciate that. But I tell my kids one of the most important things you can do to get a good grade in a class is listen to your teacher. Not only because you actually learn something from him, but because he tells you what to expect on your tests and what on your exams, and he gives you subtle hints as to what's important to him, and certainly explains your assignments and things like that. So out-psyching the professor, out-psyching the teacher, instructor, whoever, is one of the most important things you do and to get a good grade. That doesn't necessarily mean it correlates directly with what you learn, but to some degree also. The more senses you use, the more your memory kicks in. For example, taking notes adds kinesthetic memory to your learning process. And if you want to learn a new language, one of the things you do is you write new words, new vocabulary words, because that helps you to ingrain that into your brain. And so the same in a class, if you take notes, that kinesthetic memory kicks in along with your audio memory, your visual memory, your kinesthetic memory. You've got three senses going on at once to help you remember something. So I was always a very good note taker and a very good student because I learned those lessons early. But okay, so we're going to go ahead and start. And those that are late, that's a them problem. What I'm going to try to do today is show you your next project, pretty much from start to finish. So I want to demonstrate it from as much from start to finish as I can for two reasons. One is so you know how to do it, and secondly, to prove that it doesn't take that long to do it. So even though I'm going to be trying to explain it, which takes longer than just doing it, especially for me, men can't talk and think at the same time. Women can handle that multitasking, but men can't think and talk at the same time. And old men are worse at it than young men. And so definitely this is, even though this is a 2-hour class, supposedly what I actually get done will be more like 1 hour by the time I get done talking about it. Instead of just doing it. The first place I would start, however, is getting organized. I've given you all some hints. I'll turn on my mic, but I'm going to have to put it down when I'm doing my work to some degree. I gave you some hints of this already because I created a spreadsheet and put some numbers on it to help you figure out how to do your assignment. And so this is my assignment today. I have here 6 stories. They're not, they don't average quite as long as yours. One is as long as probably your longest. The second one is closer to one of your shorter ones, and the others are all shorter still. So I gave myself 6, but I don't think I need them because, like you, I have quite a bit of art. Unlike you, these were put together by my Kazakhstan students, and I have to tell you, they worked a little harder. They worked a little harder in their stories. They were also in an editing class like this, so they had to write a story. And maybe because they had taken other classes from me, they had a better idea of what I expected. But they also had the advantage of living in a metropolitan area, not close to it, but in it, in the center of the metropolitan area. And they were very acquainted with the area, so they did a variety of different stories, a much larger variety than I saw from those in this class. So we have a couple of sports-related stories. We've got stories related to bad parking situation there, the national holiday, speaker on campus, and hiking is just Almaty is surrounded by mountains, so hiking is just one of their favorite sports, and so they have, there's a good hiking story here. They have a football team, an American football team. So that's the Titans. So that's one of the sports stories. The last one is kind of very loosely. I may not use it on the front page. It actually has some of the best art, but it's only kind of peripherally related to the university. Some of the students like to go to, they have a track where they did some racing. So this is about motorcycle racing. And while they do quote students in the story, so it has a connection. It's a fairly loose connection. So even though it has an A+ photo on it, this is how I graded these, by the way. I took time to look at all the photos. And so in this first story, there's an A+ photo, and an A photo, and a C photo. In the second one, there's an A, B, and C. There are A, B, and C photos. Third one, there's 2 Bs and a C. The fourth one, there's 3 Bs and 2 Cs. And the last two are my wrestling match. What do I do with these? The parking one has all B- photos because they have no people in them. They show bad parking, crowded parking, but they don't show any people at all. So people should be in our pictures whenever possible. So I would rank those as all B- photos. They do picture the problem, but there's, actually, as I said, no people in the pictures at all. The last one that I think I will leave out of the front page has an A+ photo, a B, and a C, and 2 C photos. But its connection to the university is very slight, whereas parking is, the topic is very important, even though the photos are bad. We look over on the priorities. We see I ranked the Titans, the football team, as A+. Hiking as an A because just the quality of the story. It's also fairly loosely, I could almost say that it's almost as unrelated to the story as is speed, but I think it went more directly to the students, had more student interviews and stuff with the hiking one. The third, fourth, and fifth stories all are fairly university related. The legend was a famous speaker in campus, so he was actually speaking on campus. So I should probably, I don't know if the university connection might be too loose of a term because he was actually on campus speaking. Nowadays is a holiday celebration of spring, and I think most of their photos were on campus. So again, it's more than just a small campus connection. It's a strong campus connection. And then I said parking is definitely a university focus. So that last one is only a slight university connection, not enough interviews, but very good photos. So I might go ahead and try to get some of page 2 done, and I might put speed on the top of page 2. Not that that's part of your assignment, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. If I were doing this for real, I would put that sixth story on the top of page 2 and put jumps underneath it, is what I would do. So this is my getting organized. I've looked at the photos. I have a pretty good idea. I maybe should have renamed them a little bit. You definitely should rename your photos to match your stories, so you don't have to be looking for your photos. I could have perhaps prioritized and said, maybe put a 1 behind the photo that I consider an A+ and a 2 under the second best, something like that, to speed my work up. But regardless, the bottom line is you want to have some idea going in what photos you have, what stories you have, how long they are. They're all long enough that they'll have the small one, the legend. 13 inches is not very much across 6 columns. So if I were to go all the way across, I could easily finish that on that page, because that would only be a little over 2 inches on each of the 6 columns. So the story would be like that across the page. One thing I am thinking about is how to, if I'm with 5 stories, I may have to box 2 of them. One of them, but it's best to try to keep boxes away from each other. And so one thing I might do is put one story all the way across the center of the whole page, so that it automatically, if there's a box at the bottom and a box at the top, those boxes they're separated by a complete story across all 6 columns in the middle of the page. That's one idea. There are other ways of doing it. Also, but anyway, with the layout of a full page like this, you have to, I'm going to try to keep art apart from each other and try to keep boxes. Boxes are art, also a type of art, and I don't want boxes next to each other. So I need to figure out how to keep them apart from each other also. So that's one way of doing it, is just putting a story all the way across. But if there are different widths of boxes, like at the bottom, if the box is only one column, and at the top, it might be the entire, it might be a box around, as I did in my first demonstration, a box around the top story with the top photo, and that there's a box around that whole thing. Now, but it's only, say it might be 4 or 5 columns wide, so there's a story next to it also. And so, and the box story at the bottom or below it is only in the far right column. They're not touching each other either. So there's a lot of ways of doing it. Okay, so going to Quark. I turned off my camera because I didn't want to get my webcam in the way of my work here. So I'm going to go ahead and start from scratch. Even though I've set up my style sheets and everything before, I'm going to go ahead and hit Project, and I'm going to go ahead and size this. If you recall, and I'll open it in case you don't, but under the design critique sheet, I tell you exactly what size this is supposed to be. So I'm going to put on my glasses here so I see my computer. That helps. And I'm going to go down and open up the critique sheet so we see exactly how many inches by inches we need for this. And so under design critique here, we see the broadsheets to be 22 inches high, 16 inches wide. I don't see anything else there I really need, so I'll go back to Quark. You can adapt your preferences, and many of you I've seen have gone to millimeters or centimeters. That's up to you. There is one advantage to doing one, what did I start to say? Told you I can't think and talk at the same time. Anyway, doing one in inches, and that is obviously, we're talking the same language. But be very careful if you convert the preferences. I have had students literally convert to centimeters, go to centimeters instead, and then they create a page. Like in this case, it would be like 22 centimeters deep and 16 centimeters wide. That doesn't make for a good page. So don't get mixed up when if you decide to go change preferences to centimeters or millimeters, you have to make the conversion in size too. You're no longer 17 or 16 by 22 or whatever the distance is supposed to be here. So I'm putting this down here so I can try to do more than one thing at once. So again, making sure 16 by 22. So up here, I'm going to go ahead and give a new name here. So this is broadsheet. So I'm creating a new name for my computer. And it is 16, right? Wide and 22 deep. And I'll go ahead and, I'm not sure what it's asked me to add here, but anyway, I'll just say okay. Here, I'm going to go ahead and stay with 6 columns. Somebody asked me, do I have to go 6 columns? No, you don't, but my calculations for how long a story is based on 6 columns. Also, you would never go more than 2 columns wide in a 6-column format. You go any wider than that, you will get some big docs on your grade. One of the videos we watched told us that you should be, I think it was something like from, I can't remember exactly what it said, 7 to 13 words wide your column should be. And we looked at that the other day, and you know, one column is well within that. Once you get to 2 columns, you're barely within that range, I believe, is what we when we counted. But you wouldn't have the whole page 2 columns. You can vary a little bit, including you can draw a text box 3 columns wide, and then give the text box a 2-column format. And so even though you're laying out on a grid that shows 6 columns, some of your widths you can play with. So I might very well, I'm thinking now that I'm going to make my main story 4 columns wide, and so I could make that those 4 columns by the grid sheet. I could make into 3 or into 2 columns wide. I probably would not go 2 columns. Again, that's pushing the width kind of wide, but I might go 3 across 4 and change the look of the page a little bit. But I'm not going to change the entire grid to a 4-column format or something. I'm going to leave it 6, but within some of my text boxes, I will change the text boxes to different widths and control it there. So here I'm going to leave it 6 columns with the 1/2 inch margin around the outside. And I'm just going to have 2 columns, or 2 pages, I mean, since that's what my assignment is. So I will go ahead and change the name of the layout to Project 1, or Project 2, I guess it is now. Project 2, and I want it set up for print, and I will go from there. Okay, so I have my grid system set up. I am going to open up the style sheets. So the item style, I don't know if it kept mine. No, it did not, because I didn't. I think I can import, but I'm not going to take the time to do that today. So, but I have item style and I have character style. Where's that at? Or does it open at the same time? No, it doesn't. Style. Okay, let's see what we've got over here. And just looking at also everything else I might want to open up here. And you go back here and see where my style's at. And they might be down here further. I don't go down. Style sheets there. Okay. So I'm actually, I don't know if I'm probably not going to create any. Well, I might later. I'll keep item style open. I might use that. So I'm starting where most of you are at. I have no styles at this point. Question is, do I want to create some? And I think for speed purposes, I'm not going to create any styles right now. One thing you can do is as you create your page, you can then create from your page some styles after you're done. So in this case, I'm not going to set up styles, I don't think. Since I took the time to do styles the other day, I would rather import them. And I have not looked to remind myself where to import styles. Style sheets, maybe here. Duplicate, new. Let me see, and edit, append. Yeah, I'm not sure where I don't remember now how to copy from another style sheet from another project where I've already created it. But I would feel like I'm kind of cheating if I did that anyway, so I'm not going to do it regardless. So I'll worry about that later. We can talk about more about style sheets later as I relearn Quark myself. Okay, so I am going to take a look at my whole page. I mentioned I think I might go ahead and create 4 columns with a good piece of art and make it fairly deep. And then go, although that's sometimes that inhibits you a little bit to have a piece of art that high on the page. And so I might make my 5-column or my 6-column story at the very top instead, and then put a big piece of art here. So if I look at my stories again and think about that, my best art is with Titans, but it's not really an important story. It is maybe for a university, but it's not the most important story by any means. I say A+, yeah, kind of A+ish. It is good action, but it might be better down at the bottom. The legend, famous athlete in Kazakhstan, who was the first person to ever run a marathon across all the extreme deserts in the world. So he's, he made a name for himself in a country that doesn't have many people. Parking is an important story, even though it's considered B, and it doesn't have great art. It is a major problem for students on campus. So in looking at these, I might go with parking with a small piece of art at the top, and then go to the big piece of art under it. So I think I'm gonna do that. Hiking's a better story, but it's it's more feature-ish than news. Parking is a little bit harder news. So I'm gonna go across the top. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put a story across the top, bring my art underneath it. So I'm going to draw a text box up here for the headline. I can adapt it here in a few seconds, adapt anything I do here. Headline. And I'm going to draw the, and I know I have to, when I get too close, it starts giving me these other symbols, so I'm going to have to stretch it when I get closer to it. I want to go just a fairly short story, so I get the art fairly high to the top, but I do need deep enough for a photo. I think I should have one. So that would kind of suggest I need to come down a little bit lower than I wanted to. But maybe I can put one in here. It's not a real great photo, and put a side caption instead of a bottom caption. So I can leave it kind of like that. The second one, like I said, that I'm going to put a regular graphic box under that for the time being. Would go 4 across with a wide photo. Trying to remember what that photo looks like again. Okay, yeah. And I'd come quite a ways down on that one. I could come possibly all the way down, but that would mean I'd have to have 3 stories in the right 2 columns, which is possible, but then it would eliminate the need for 2 boxes. I'd have just 1 box that way. So I'm going to probably have a story across the bottom as well, so that one would also be short. So I have 2 6-column stories, and I'll start 2 stories along the side here. This is a graphic box here. I'm not going to put in all the boxes right now. I'm just kind of getting an idea what the layout will look like. This one here, I'm going to have to, now this is a graphic box, so I'm going to bring over a ruler guide close to it. So I'm going to, so my photos and stuff will match up the ruler guide, not the graphic box. Another one here to come over across here again. All the text boxes and the graphic boxes will go to this guide here rather than, I don't want them touching the graphic box that I created. Okay, so that's really has designed my page to a large degree just by making those decisions. And I can go from there. As far as text or photo boxes now, I'm going to go ahead and, I mentioned with this one, I'm going to go ahead and create one, say in here, and I'm going to leave enough space on the right of it for a caption. So I'm not going to put the caption underneath this one. I'm going to make it to the right of it. And I'm going to go get that, which actually means I can end the text box right over here. It doesn't need to go over here at all. So I'll move the text box a little bit too. But in fact, I'll go to grab the text box, and I'll just move the text box over to that column. This is actually maybe a little bit too far. And I'll eventually put a caption text box over here. So I'll click on this one, and it's giving me the this one should be, was it a picture frame? Maybe I didn't do a picture frame. It doesn't act like I did. Well, no, it had the X across it though. Okay, well, I'm going to do it again. Okay, so from here to there. And I need to go find my stuff. I put it under courses and editing and week 8. And broadsheet. So I have all my stuff in here. So this one I'm putting up the top is about hiking. about parking. They have a bad parking problem. You can't see them very well from there, but I've already looked at them, so I can have some recollection of what it looks like. As far as showing the problem, they all show the problem pretty well. Actually, these look like the same photo, so maybe I only have 3 photos. And I think I'm going to take this one as being the most demonstrative of the problems and hit open. So we see all you can kind of see the parking problem they have there, that they're not actually supposed to be parking in the street at all. At least I think when they took the picture, it was against the law to park there, but they didn't have any place to park. So I'll right-click this, and I'm going to tell it to go ahead and match the scale of the picture to the box. And we see that it, I'll get a little closer here. A little bit of dead space at the top, so this could go the full width of the box that I created. I was kind of obviously guessing at the size of what I'd want, but it looks like it should work okay once I delete some of the picture from the top, and then I can make it that wide okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom in now. Control-1 on the keyboard will give me actual size. So Control-0 gives me the whole page. Control-1 gives me the actual size, so I can work from there. I'm going to put my mic down so I can actually do some work. I'm going to go ahead and, I believe, if I remember right, if I hit Shift and Control, this allows me to, it keeps it in proportion. Let's see if it does. So it keeps the picture in proportion. And so that pretty much tells me then what I need to delete. I just need to delete from up here. However, come to think about it, looks like my box was not the right size. It didn't go all the way up to the headline. So let me put the box up to the headline before I go any further here. And I probably still have to make some adjustments because I don't know really what size the headline is. So I really don't, at this size, don't really need to delete that much of this photo. But I might choose to. But let me go down to here for now. Oops, it's doing the whole photo. Oops, I see. I have photo on both sides here that I need to deal with. Let me go down a little further here and get the full width that I wanted. And now, got rid of that. So it's within the text box. So this looks okay for now. I'll leave it there for now. Okay, so I'm going to hold down the Alt button, and that allows this little hand to show up, so I can go ahead and move it over. And so my text box is now here. And I want to bring the text box in to remind me exactly what the story says, so I can write my headline accordingly, and a subheadline also, probably. Again, check my text box exactly where it is. Oops. Okay, so it's lining up okay. And I want to tell it, I'm going to keep this one. This one had, because the one below it, I'll probably make wider columns. This one I'll keep standard columns. Let me go ahead and go to modify and tell it that I want 6 columns. Let me see, frame, text, 3 columns across 3. So 3 columns across the width of that text box. Okay, so we're okay there. Let me go ahead and then bring in Control E in the keyboard. Is the same as going to File and looking for import, Control E. I'll go ahead and hit it for you this time, but in the future I'll just hit Control E to speed it up. Go down and find my story. I've gone through the stories. There is a little bit of garbage in them still, like names and stuff like that, but I think I have most of the garbage out of them. Okay, parking story. Where's the parking story? I tried to save them all. It tells us that we have to be careful about naming them or converting them to the modern word, and so since I'm not seeing it, that suggests to me I did not convert that one. The other ones I converted to modern word, and that one I apparently did not convert. So I'll have to go back in there and find it and reconvert it. So here's the parking story. I'm going to have to open it, and need also to eliminate the editing that I've done. So I'm going to delete all the markup, get rid of the markup stuff, and go up here and do a save as, and save it back into there. And this says 97 to 2003. I think if I just go up to Word document, that's what they consider standard now, and hit save. And OK. Okay, so I'll close that now and go back to my page. And again, now hit Control E in the keyboard. And import, hopefully it will now appear, parking story. So we've got the parking story in there. I'm going to go ahead and hit, while I'm inside, hit Control A to select the whole story. Even the part of the story I can't see is still saved or still selected. And so I can go down here to get it the right style and so forth. So it's supposed to be Times New Roman. Our text style is Times New Roman, and 10 point Times New Roman. So that is the right size. What we don't have here is I need to go and let me see here. Oh, paragraph, yeah. So I need to set I believe this is, yeah, the first line indent. I mentioned about in inches, about 0.13 inches would be what I'd want in the first line indent. So I'm going to hit OK with that. And I'm going to, now that they have some false indents in there, which is a problem. I have to just go through and get rid of them. So I'm double clicking ahead of each paragraph that looks like it has a tab in it, to get rid of those, and I have to get them when I get to this jump or whatever, wherever I get to the rest of the story. I have to do it there also. But one thing I can do here is, now that I have the tab, or I have the indent set and everything, this is a good place to go ahead and create a style. And so this is a paragraph style that I'm going to be setting, because it styles the entire paragraph. And so I'll hit a plus here, and I will call it body text. I'm not going to worry about keyboard equivalents right now. And I will hit OK. And I think that should hold then for the future. I think I did that right. We'll find out when I get to another story. Okay, I've got somebody wrote a headline here. I'll go ahead and take it for now and put that up here in the headline box. I have the byline. I'm going to go American style, though, and put her first name first. So, Aliyah Nurtayeva. And this other stuff I don't need. I need to get rid of that. Now with the byline, I can go ahead and make another style for that. I'm going to put by Aliyah Nurtayeva. Select that. And in this one I want to take off. Well, I can go ahead and I can create a style sheet kind of based on the body text. So I'll hit another plus, and I'll tell it I'm basing it on the body text. But this one is going to be byline. And in this one I will, I need to get rid of the first line indent. And I also want to, first line indent, I want to center it. Oh, here's a line left. I want it to be centered. And I want to go to character style here. And I want to be bold and italic for that. Hit OK. And I think I'm OK with that. I'll hit OK here. Now I have another style that I can apply for the next story. And it's the byline with the bold italic centered byline. I see I can see another story here. Get rid of that. Or another tab here. Another tab here. Get rid of that also. OK. So I see I have a bad break here for some reason. Okay. So I think the story looks okay for the moment. Question is, do I want drop cap on all my stories, any of the stories? I think I'll only have a drop cap on the main story. So I'll wait and not create that now. I'm not going to have a drop cap here. Okay, the headline here, I'm going to go ahead and put that to the left. Where am I here? Left. And I see it has the indent that I created before for the body text. I need to get that to 0. No indent on headlines. Okay. QMAP students jostle with parking. Actually, it's not a bad headline. Maybe I wrote it. I don't remember. Maybe the editing student wrote it. It is in Times New Roman. That's not our style. Our style will be, you come down here to text, and our style is Arial or some other sans serif without serif style. This is more of a news story. I might make this Arial bold and have my main story maybe a bigger headline, but not as bold a headline. because this is the one I consider more newsish, so to speak. While I have that selected, I can hold down the Shift Control button and hit the greater than sign, which is also the period. Greater sign is on, and the period are on the same button, same key. So I can go ahead and start enlarging it and getting an idea. I'm at 48 point already with a nice bold headline. That's good. I'm going to go back to Control 0 to make it so I can see the whole thing. And maybe I can go ahead and go one more. Probably be too big one more because they jump by headline size. They're not exact. They're not jumping 1 point at a time. So I'm going to go here. It looks like I can probably go at least to 52. I'll hit 52 there. Looks like at least 54, probably 55. A nice big news bold headline. So I'll keep that. I think I still want to, my effort today will be to have a subheadline with every story. So I'm going to go down in here and I'm going to use this tool here, the zoom tool, and just zoom into this area here for now, so I can see it nice and big. And so this is a little bit too big of a box, even for this 55 point size. I'm going to bring up the text box, and I intended to shrink the headline box a little bit. So about up to that. And I'm going to bring the photo up also to match that. Okay, that looks okay. So I will, but I want a subheadline, and the question is, where I've made this entire box a text box, or just one big text box in 3 columns, I can't grab just one column and bring it smaller. So the only way I can do this with a subheadline is to create a new, basically probably bring in another text box and push this other text away with the second box. I'm going to start it out here and estimate its size, and so about like that. And I'm going to go ahead and start a headline here. I try to, in my subheadlines, try to repeat as few words as possible. So I'm even trying to avoid using students again. But I may have to start with students. And so with that, I'll just wait to size it. I will go ahead and bring the box over. And I did guess right at the size, but now I need to get the box, get the wraparound. So down here we can see the frame, the wraparound. So I'll hit the wraparound on it. And let me see, down in here we don't have anything down here yet. And I think I'm okay. Item. Okay, so I had to select item there to get it to show me these, show me the spacing and stuff. I really don't need, the box is exactly the size, so I don't really need to put any extra spacing around it in this case. So I'll go in here and make my subheadline before I do anything else. Decide just how big. This is 54, so the subheadline in theory should be about half the size, but it doesn't really have to be quite, but I would want it to be at least 18 point. And so I'm going to immediately go to 18 point and leave it light face. So the text, I'll go to 18. 24 might not be bad. It looks like 20, it might get close to 24 if I bring this down a little more. If I can, let me go to 24 and see if how the words match up to 24. Need to bring the box a little bit bigger. Take off the word there. So I happen to guess well. So I actually can bring this up a little bit, a couple points bigger. So it's 24 now. I will go ahead and go to 26 and make it very close to exactly half the size of the top headline. And it seems to fit. I'll leave a little bit of space here. I could go to a little bit more, but it's close enough and they're evened up with each other. I'm going to leave it like that for now. Okay, so we have a subheadline. And by the way, with this, I can go ahead and now select, create another. I need to get, come on, select, okay. I can now create another style, and I'm going to also call this a paragraph style. And I will, so hit my plus sign here. I'm basing this one, I'll just base it on itself, that's okay. So this one I'm going to call, I'll just call it a subhead. Because I'll face that situation pretty close to this at some other places. And I would say, other than that, we're flush left, that's correct. There's no indent, that's correct. So I'd say that's pretty close. I'm just going to say okay with that. I think we're okay with that as our subheadline style. Okay, so I've got to, I'm going to hit the Alt button again and come over here where I can see this extra space where I was going to put the caption. So I'm going to create a text box over here, down the side. On a side headline caption like this, you don't need to take all the space. You can purposely leave some white space here, that sort of a caption. I am now going to create a new style for caption. This is, again, the wrong, we want to stay with Times New Roman for the caption. Oops, I hit, yeah, I did get it, okay. I don't care. I think you can have a little bit of freedom going between 10 and 12 point, but I'm going to start off with 12 point. In some, I might shrink it. Thinking about adding a little bit more caption to that, but again, a little bit of white space in this sort of a layout is a good thing. So I'm going to leave it like that. Meanwhile, I've selected this text. And so I'm going to go over to paragraph again, and I'm going to create a new one called caption. I'm not going to, so I can just click on these and hit the style sheet next time around. Don't see anything else. I don't need any indent and captions. Bold, italic, I've already selected that. It should have recorded that in its memory. And hit OK. So I think I have all those styles now ready to go. So looking back out, I hit Control-0 again to see the page. We're looking at something like that. The one thing I still need is a jump line. I will have to jump this someplace else. And in fact, I might go ahead and just do it right now just to see what I have. I'm just going to create a text box out here next to it. And I'm going to go ahead and select this text box, hit the link button over here, and hit it over here. Oops, I guess I did that wrong. Let me hit, I thought, okay, I guess I click this one first and then that one, and we see what's left. So we don't have very much left. I'd be tempted to get rid of the rest somehow, but I will leave it to jump to page 2 later if I choose to do so. But in here, I do need to do something else. So I'm going to hit Control 1 into here again. I need that jump line in here. I need to even out the text in here. This text is lower than the text next to it, so I need to worry about that. This one here, I'm actually going to create another text box again for the jump line. And I'm going to create it below it right now while I create it, and then I'll move it up. And so this one will be single quote, parking, single quote, continues on page 2. I'll go ahead and select that whole thing. Again, well, maybe I will. Maybe our style will be sans serif for that. So that is Arial. But I'll go back down to 10 point because I do want to make it bold, at least bold. Maybe not italic, but at least bold. And I want to make it flush right. So I go to go flush right, and I'm going to, I guess it's a good time to acquaint you with the other type of box. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to make this an item box. And this is jump 2, I'll call it, because this is the jump line that goes to page 2, and there will be a different one for jumping from page 2 or whatever page. Let me hit OK. One of the, let me open it up and see. Okay, I don't see that it is synchronized with anything else, so it might be okay. I guess there's no reason to synchronize it with something else. We'll see. We might run into a problem. Sometimes when you pull it out the second time, it might try to sync with another jump line, and when you change one, it'll change the other one. But for now, we have, so I'm still kind of understanding some of the way they work this. So we now have an item that I can just drag and drop into the other ones. I'm not actually done with it, so I guess I should also, we need a runaround on this one. So we want to apply a runaround. I don't think we need any specific, well, maybe on top. We need to kick the, let's just say here. On top of the item, we want a little bit of room above it. I'll leave it at 1 for now. At 1 point is not a lot, but I do want maybe a little distance. I want it to push the text a little bit away when I need it to. So it has a runaround now, which means when I bring it up here, it should push the other text out of the way. And I'm going to drag a guide down here so I can check the first line with and I'll drag, this gives me some freedom here to drag, and I'm going to go up to a view of 200 where this allows me to be a little more precise. It doesn't, the jumps don't, it doesn't jump quite so much on its own. So I want it's still jumping a little bit. I need to double check with what's over here. I thought it was right across the bottom of those, of the main baseline. And that's basically what I'm trying to do here. I can maybe just drag this just a little bit higher from here. And so it's right across the baseline. So we still have a problem here with this middle one to get them to justify with the other text. And this is where it might take you a little bit longer to finish your project. We see I'm almost done with an hour here messing with the first one, but I'm creating style sheets while I'm at it. So I have this one paragraph selected up here. I'm kind of, if you come up a little bit and you can see. So I have that paragraph selected. So what I'm going to do to even out these columns is make the line spacing there a little bit more. And so I'm going to go down here and let me see, I believe it's under text, or is it? Baseline. Maybe it's under paragraph. Let's see, text. Well, that's text. Okay, so I'm still trying to figure some of this out myself. Remembering where the spacing is. I thought, let's go to paragraph attribute. Okay, here it is. So it currently has a line spacing of 20%. I definitely don't want to go to 30. I'm just going to go, it looks to me like maybe 22% line spacing on that one column might do it. I'll hit 22 and hit enter. Not quite. So I'll go to 24, hit enter, and it looks like I have to go 25. I still think that you won't hardly notice it when we're done. So those columns are all lined up. Let's go and look and see what this one paragraph looks like. And I don't think you would notice that the line spacing, especially when you come out to the normal view, you're probably not going to notice that that's a little bit wider line spacing. So we need to do something to get for vertical justification, we need the columns to line up. And so that's one way of doing it. There are some other ways. Put space between paragraphs, for example, is another way to do it. So that first story is done. And in the meanwhile, we've created a bunch of items while we're at it. So the next one should be a little bit faster. So I already had drawn in this other box. I drew in a text box, or a graphic box, if you recall. I'll grab that graphic box and bring it up close to the story above it. I still want a little bit of breathing space there. Again, this is a text box. I need to tell it what I want that text box to be. So I'm going to click on, now that I have that text box, again, it's not a text box, the graphic box selected. I can go to the frame command down here, and I can go ahead and tell it that I do want, see it has 0 point over here. This is in the way of my, I'm going to have to, my recording system's in the way. I need to get to that 0 there and tell it I want some line. Well, let me see if I hold down the Alt button. Can I get that? That doesn't change that at all. I'm going to turn off my recording just a second while while the video was off, I changed the 0 point over here to 1 point. It's black, and it's anyway, it's a straight line. It's not dotted or something like that, just a regular line. So we have our graphic box in place now. As I created this, I drew out of the ruler this extra guide. I'm going to bring it just a little bit tighter, a little bit closer to the graphic box over here. Maybe the same thing, just a little bit closer. Oh, I did make a mistake up here that I might as well correct now. I did not make this justified on the text itself horizontally justified. So that's going to screw up my byline, so I have to redo my byline. But I click in here and hit Control A again to select all the text. I could select, well, I could click in here at the start and go over here and hit Shift click. And that should select it all. Everything in this case, I'm not selecting the byline. So, okay, good. So I can go back and actually go to the style sheet and edit the style sheet to tell it to, so I don't want it left actually, I want it justified, so I'll hit justified and hit OK. And so now I've changed the body text to the, corrected that, so hopefully next time it'll stick. Okay, so come back down here again. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in the let me go up here, I guess, and use the picture content tool. And I'm going to have a big picture up here. Again, it's kind of fighting me as far as getting close to the line, so I'll have to adjust the box once I get done putting it in. It's quite a large picture, and I want it to be the center of focus for the whole page. So I'm going to go ahead and make it there. Now once it's created, I can go and bring it up a little bit. I'll have to adjust it. It looks like it's trying to jump. Again, I'm far away, so I can't tell for sure. Not sure whether it's jumping to the ruler guide or to the original column guide. But I'm going to go ahead and put it in now, and then I'll adjust it in a few minutes. So I'll double click on this again. And this is where they're celebrating a victory. There's two of them that are pretty good, but I think this one is maybe a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead. Looks like it's not quite the size of what I'll have to adjust the text box a little more horizontal than I recalled. But I'll go ahead and click on that and hit OK. And so I'll hit Control 1 to get in close to it so I can see it. So the text, the graphic, or the graphic box is right on the ruler guide. That's good. And we see that this can go a little bit bigger to fill the box. So I'm going to go hold Shift Control, I think that's correct, and bring it down and to the line to the right. Resize it bigger. And I will make the frame itself, well, actually I can just go right click and tell it fit the box to the picture in this case. So now the frame is the same as the picture. This whole thing could go higher. Let me just make sure I'm clicking out of it and trying to bring the whole picture up higher, closer to the graphic frame. About the same distance as on the two sides. And come down. I see the graphic or the picture box moved. I need, okay, so the picture moved and the frame did not. Okay, I'm going to go out, and I think I can do a better job by lassoing. I'm going to go to the item tool, and let me see if I can do this. I can in some of the desktop publishing. Okay, this one does a little bit differently. Um, okay, I'm going to lasso it, but it's also selecting the graphic, or the graphic box. I'm going to deselect that. And so I only have selected the photo and its frame. And now I can go closer up, and I think it will move together now. We'll see. Okay, looks like it did. Okay, so we've got that main picture in there. I'll need a caption. My students did not, or at least I didn't save captions. So I need to draw a caption box. And I just got to make up the captions. I don't remember exactly. Okay, so select all of that and go over and hit the caption style, see if it's working okay. Looks like it is. So I have the caption stylized and everything for that photo. I need my main headline. I am going to make a change, and I think I may have already made it on a revised critique sheet, that in the broadsheet you can go 2 lines across 4 columns. In the original and on the PowerPoint that I showed, it said no 2 lines across 4 columns. But I think in a broadsheet you can't. You should be able to. And so I think I changed that on the latest version of the critique sheet, that across 4 on a broadsheet you can make 2 lines of text across 4 columns. And so I am going to do that. Make enough depth here for what I think will take about 2 lines. And I will move down a little bit. I need to see the story again before I write a headline, but I want to leave the space for it already. And then I will create a new text box underneath the headline. Again, we get close. Sometimes it resists a little bit. And this one, I'll create that. And I'm going to, on this text box, on just the text frame, I'm going to tell it, I think I can override the columns here, or I can't. Maybe I can't. Yeah, I can down here. So instead of one, obviously it comes in as 1 column, I've got 4 columns. I'm going to tell it I want 3 across 4 is what I'm going to do in this one. And then I'm going to go ahead and here and hit Control E to bring in the story. And this one is the football, the Titans. Hit OK. And there are the Titans. That headline is not worth using. The headline is a little bit, or the first paragraph. The problem right off the bat. I'll get rid of that one. Thinking about it. Well, I'm not going to use this headline, but I'll go ahead and put it up here in the text box anyway. Get rid of the garbage here. And in this case, she did write her byline the way I would. Oops, somehow I deleted the T by accident. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a select all right off the bat and go over and tell it I want this to be body text. We have here, however, they've put some indent or some spacing between the paragraphs. So I'm going to select again, and I need to go get rid of that spacing, probably under the paragraph attributes down below. We see here there's a 0 here, and if it shows you a number, this is important for you to understand. Everybody pay attention to this. If it shows you a number here where it's clicked into space above a paragraph, that probably means that's consistent. If it has different spacing at different places, that means it'll not show you anything. So down here underneath it, we see under space below a paragraph a blank. That suggests that some of them have some space, a certain amount of space, and some doesn't. Well, I want to get 0 anyway, so I'll hit 0 there and hit enter, and all that spacing is gone now. So we've gotten rid of all that extra spacing that we didn't want. We used our style to go ahead and stylize it all. I will override on the byline and tell it to become byline. But because it was previously, it has a plus sign here, that it has somehow picked up some code probably from Word, that it was supposed to be flush right, where she had her name was up in the flush right. And so I have to somehow overcome that. I'm going to try hitting no style and going back to byline, and now it overcame it. So if you see that something doesn't look right and you see a little plus sign, it's probably bringing in some coding from Word. And so one way apparently is to hit the no style and then go back to byline, and it overrode the style that came in from Word. Here I want to have a drop cap, and so I'm going to select this, and I'm going to select on drop cap here. So we have a drop cap. There should not be an extra space here. There should be an indent here. And so I need to go also and get rid of the indent. That was the 0.13 indent. That needs to be 0. And hit enter. So we got rid of, when you have that drop cap, the space, an extra space is not necessary, and it really looks bad. So we want to get rid of any indent on a drop cap. Now I have my drop cap, and so I can go also over here and hit a plus under style sheet and hit drop cap. I have that for the future if I want to use that again. I think everything else is okay. I'll hit OK. So we have byline. Oops, I need to put by in there. Not a byline until I put by. And we have a drop cap. And I could go ahead and try something. Well, I see that somehow my T came up here. That's interesting. I guess I wasn't paying attention again, talking and trying to work at the same time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on this and tell it to be. Now, I didn't create a headline style, actually, did I? I created a subhead. I did not create a headline style. I should have a headline style, so I will go ahead and create one now. So for my standard headline style, I'm going to go ahead and first off, I want it to be flush left. Headline should be flush left. That's the vast norm in the industry, is flush left. I'm not going to, we'll make it just Helvetica bold. So I'm going to go to Helvetica, or not, Arial rather. Arial, not Arial black, but Arial bold. if I want something to be, I wouldn't have more black and more than one in a page, so my priority, this actually does say black, I didn't meant bold, so Arial and bold down here. And for my standard, I'll go ahead and hit 36, and I will, actually I want to make this a character style, first off. In fact, maybe that's, I don't maybe need a paragraph. Anyway, for now I'm going to make it a character style. And so the character style is bold headline, I guess I'll say. Or maybe actually I'll put the actual point size. I showed that to you the other day. So this is 36 point. And maybe I will put BF for boldface and hit OK. Okay, looking at this again. So if I remember right, they're trying to get more support from the university on this. But I guess basically, okay, yeah, so they got a little bit of money. Well, let's see. So okay, I'm going to start there. I see this looks like it has tried to justify itself. I need to make sure this is flush left. And make it a little bit bigger. It's at 36 now. So I'll hit Shift Control greater than or period and get a little bit bigger here. That looks like about maximum fit in the size that I actually have here, but I can change that if I need to. I'll look at rewording a little bit. Okay, a little bit long. This is not the top headline, so it doesn't have to be 36 point. Let me see what it goes to. I'm going to go ahead and select that whole thing and try to come down just a little bit to going to hit the text here. Oh, it says it's 40 or 48, so I'm going to go down to about 42. I had forgotten. I started off at 36, but then I went bigger. So it's bigger than 42. Looks like maybe about 44. And might even get to be 45. I'm thinking about making it italics also. Within a box, our style at the daily paper as that was, if it's in a box, a graphic box, we could make it italics. We want the two lines to be within 3 characters. This is within 3 characters. Revive is within 3 characters of team. So I'm going to say that's good enough. And it looks like we have everything we need except for the jump line. The columns line up okay. I'm going to bring the graphic box up a little bit. And I'm going to drag in, and this is where I need to see how this works out. I'm going to drag in here the jump to and see what happens when I change that. Doesn't seem to be dragging. Let me try that again. Why not? Okay, is there something here that I'm missing? So I'm not going to fight it right now. It's not important enough, and trying to finish up as much as I can of this page and demonstrate as possible. I'm going to forget about that, so I'm going to go ahead and just create another text box. I'll create it down here and move it up there. And so this one is going to be wider, obviously, because we've got wider columns. So I'll put single quote, football, single quote, continues on page 2. This one we did have as Arial, so that's okay. I think I had it at 10 point, however, and I think I had it bold, but not italic. And I had it flush right, and I also need to do a wraparound. And again, I need to say item over here, so it has a wraparound. And now I can drag it up and push the, have it push the text out of the way. I need to double check. I'm going to drag a ruler guide down here to line up against the bottoms of these first 2 columns. And so it shows me that I'm way off over here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control 1. I'm at Control 1. Probably going to have to go a little bit tighter than that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the zoom tool and just zoom in here so that I can move it over a little bit. Back to. And make sure that this jump box lines up with the bottom of that. Make sure the others are lined up also. They're actually a little bit lower than that. So I can go down just a little bit. More like that. So I've got my jump line. Let me go back up to Control 0. See the whole thing. So I'm going to put a story down across the bottom and 2 across the side. I've got a big headline up top with a jump head, or with a subhead. Now I did not put a subhead in here, so that's a question. Do I want a subhead? We have a pretty good presence there, but I said my preference would be to put a subhead on every one of them. So I'm going to go back down here and put in a subhead. I just don't know what I'm going to say. So I will click in front of the byline and give myself a space for the subheadline. Okay, so I'm going to have something there to deal with. I'll go ahead and change that. I can go ahead and hit the subhead over here and see if it will take it. Okay. See where that leads us here. I'm going to take out university. This is where you might want a thesaurus to look for. In headline writing, you could really use, you might open up a thesaurus, electronic one, to look at words that mean the same thing. Because I'm looking now for a longer word. In order to match the length of these lines, I need to come up with another word that's longer than lead. Guide, or again, if I had not used school up in the main headline, I could use school down here, say returns to school to revive again, but I already used that once, so I don't want to duplicate that. Guide does not seem long enough. Well, it's within three, barely within 3 letters of the higher one. I'm going to hit Shift Enter is a line break. Again, you need to remember that. So if I want to break to a third line right here, I hold down the Shift button, hit Enter, and that's a line break, not a new paragraph, it's a new line. I'm still not satisfied with the guide. So I might copy that, go to the internet, and I think there's a website called dictionary.com, but it also has a thesaurus built into it. And so I'm going to go to the thesaurus, and I want a thesaurus, I want synonyms for guide. That has nouns. I wondered about that at the time. So let me go up here and say to guide to tell it that I want verbs. See if it recognizes that. Maybe it doesn't quite understand that, so I'm going to say lead as maybe a little bit what? Okay, it's misreading the to in front of it, so I'll try that again. Okay, but now it's trying to make a noun out of it again in some cases. Let's see if it finds a verb for it. Okay, so it does add another tab up here for verb. I'll hit the verb. I didn't see that before. Induce, precede, quarter. Well, that's actually kind of appropriate to quarterback. The restoration. Manage, attend, coerce, conduct, shepherd, quarterback. Well, let's see what we look at. Let's go back. Right. Looks strange here. Well, that lines up the headlines quite nicely, so I'll go ahead and stick with that. And everything's still lined up down here. So, running out of time. I need to go start putting in these other stories. I think I'll do the bottom one first. And so I'm going to bring in a headline down here. It's having trouble getting close to this story. Maybe if I click out here first, it'll let me get a little closer. So I'm going to put one all the way across, I think, but maybe not. Maybe I'd be better off having some more room for the two stories that have to go in the two columns. And put a picture down on the bottom of that one. Okay, I'm going to stick with that a second, and maybe not have any major art. So I'm going to look at the stories again and see what might just have a small piece of art, such as Legend. I know has something that could be a half-column mug, even if I wanted it to be. Nauris will have some big art, not great art, that could go in the lower right underneath at the bottom of a story in the right column. Hiking has a good picture that could go down there towards the lower right. So I'm going to go ahead and take Legend and put Legend in here. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-1, come down and I'll hold down the Alt button and shift this over so I can see it. Create the, now this one is not going by the ruler guide because it doesn't have a graphic box around it. And this one will be fairly small headline. I can bring it up about like that. Bring in another text box down here for the story. And bring this up a little bit probably. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the story first because I'm not sure about what I'm going to say about the headline again. So I'm going to click in here and hit Control-E to place it, to import it. And this one will be the, like I say, the hero or whatever his name, Legend. Legend here. And while I've got it selected here, I'll go to, is it the paragraph where I get the columns? No. Okay, so it's the text box. So I need to go. I'm going to go ahead and go back to 4 columns. I don't want too many different types of columns. So I have 4 at the top, 3 across, 4 in the middle, and 4 here in the center. I'm going to go ahead and, again, this has a proposed headline. I'm not sure where the lead was supposed to start here. I'll just grab the first few words here. And Control X to cut it, Control V to paste it in. Get rid of most of this garbage. Okay, got some, again, some weird stuff coming in from Word. I'll go ahead and select the whole thing and choose, over here, I'm going to, under Style Sheet, hit first off No Style, and then go to my body text, and hope it doesn't bring any garbage from Word. Doesn't look like it did too much. I've got a few extra lines out of in the middle of it that I don't need. I don't know why they're there, don't remember. Get rid of those. We see we've got this one. We should be able to get in a photo without any without jumping the story. That's good. Well, I've got, if I put in a byline, it might complicate it. But anyway, for now, I'll let me go ahead and put in the headline first, make sure that's going to fit. And so I'm going to put in, call it 36 for now. Remember the other one ended up being bigger. This also has, I'm going to hit No Style and then go back to 36. Oops, No Style here and go back to 36. It still wants to be centered, so I have to overcome that. Paragraph. Go flush left. Okay. Okay, this is the bottom of the page, so it can go smaller. So I'm going to select all and go Shift Control comma, which is the lesser than sign. That's way lesser than. Go to T and bring it back up to about 30 point, 32 point maybe. Okay, so that fits in nicely at 32 point. The text box can come up. I can go ahead and put in maybe something about the what he did. So see what that looks like as a subheadline. I'll go over here. I do have that as a style sheet subheadline. Try it, look at like that. Marathoner. I don't think you can call that. Go ahead and make that a little smaller. That's quite large for that compared to its main headline. So it should be smaller regardless. Even at that, it's a little bit large, but it actually fits pretty well. I'm going to just leave it like that. Hit my byline. And so now all I need to do is put in the mugshot. So I'm going to hit the, I'm going to create a mugshot about, oops, didn't mean to do that. About like that. A little bit narrower than that so it can wrap around okay. I'll move it up against the headline. And this one, and maybe might be easier to redo the photo outside. Control E again to get that going. This is the one I wanted to use here rather than him speaking, him running instead. I'm going to right click and bring that down to scale picture to box, but I will okay, so I've got the mugshot in there. I need to get the text to run around it. So I need to click that and create some runaround. So that's over here, and it's an item already, so it already ran around, but I need to get some space around the left side particularly. And so I'll go on the left side and push the text away by hitting this box here. So it's about 5 points away from the photo. I don't have, well, I guess I can go ahead and grab the caption. Well, I can't really. I'll need to, all I need with this one, just need a name box. So I need to create a text box. Let me move up just a little bit. Create a text box down here. I'll move it up in a second. And I just need to grab his name here. And click on that and tell it to be a caption. And move that up. And I need it to have a wraparound. And so it also needs a runaround, as they call it, wraparound, run around, and need it to be item. I'm running out of time as far as creating, evening out that. I'm just going to very quickly show you how I'm going to finish this thing up. I don't have quite enough time in these 2 hours and talking and stuff too to finish it quite. But you see I'm getting pretty close, and creating styles and stuff as I go along, which you guys could be doing right now rather than waiting to the last minute. In this I could, no, not really. Yeah, no. Okay, so I need one box for the headline. I'll go ahead and I probably have about a 3-line headline though. I'll leave that for the second. Create another box here real quick for the story. Bring that down a ways. And probably I'm going to need another well, in looking at what I'm doing here, I'm kind of trapping myself a little bit, I think. Let me look at Control 0 again. Well, maybe not. I may bring this down a little bit more, and then I put a photo in here and a story below it. So, and maybe a 1 column or something over here. So that may work okay. I'm going to leave the holiday celebration for the bottom, for down here. So that leaves one of the other stories up here. What do I have here again? So I have, if I leave the celebration, I still haven't done hiking. Oh, hiking's better than that. So maybe I'll put the hiking at the bottom. Nauris, the art in that isn't really good anyway. So I think I'll put in Nauris, and I'll have some art for page 2 for Nauris when I jump that. So that's okay. So I will go here, and I will bring in hit Control E to bring in the story. So that'll be the holiday Nauris. I will get rid of the garbage, hit Control A to select all this text, tell it I want to be body text, and in fact I have to hit no style first because it's been corrupted. Now hit body text. Okay, that's good. Do the byline, tell it to be byline. Oh, I do want the text, I want this to be 2 columns also, not, yeah, I don't want this to be all the way across, so I'm going to hit, go down here and hit 2 columns here. So I'll go ahead and hit the 36 point again for the headline, just to see where we're at. I can go a little bit smaller to get in spring if I want to try that. So I'll go to text. Looks like it almost fits. Okay, in fact, I don't know why it didn't fit, actually. Oh, I guess the 2 went down there. I'll hit Shift Enter. Well, it is within 3 lines. It's a little bit larger. You know, it's a little more space than I like, but it is within 3 characters. So I'm going to say I'm content with that for the moment. I can always come back and look at that again later. Subheadline, kind of stuck at what to say. Well, we've got people outside, so I'm going to stop there. Well, you see I'm pretty close to finishing the job. So once you kind of get the idea of what you're doing, you set up your styles, you have some idea what you want your layout to look like. It goes pretty fast. I know some of you are worried that you're going to not be able to get done if you don't. In fact, tomorrow you will have time, or starting tomorrow in your tutorials, you will have time to start this. Of course, you'll need to know how to use Apple in order to do it, because we'll be in the Apple lab. So you might want to. That's one reason why I gave you the put a quiz in the future about the Apple videos that are on our syllabus, because I want to give you some motivation to start learning how to use those Apple computers, because most of you are not using them. And it's good to learn it. So tomorrow, or starting in our tutorials this week, you will have time to work on this, but I'm afraid we are in the Apple lab, so you'll be able to save it and take it, use it elsewhere. If you want to bring your laptops and you've downloaded Quark into your laptops, you can bring your laptops to work on it if you prefer that. We will have a tutorial today. I believe it's scheduled starting in a little bit. If you want to get Quark into your laptops, again, you can do that. That's what I'm using as a laptop. It's nice to have a big screen, but you see it's very doable without a big screen. Going back and forth between Control A, where you see this whole thing, Control 1, where you see just enough to work on, Control 1, Control 0, Control 0, Control 1, back and forth. You can manipulate, and then you have your little hand, you hold down your Alt button, and you can move around if you're in the Control 1 mode. You can hold down the Alt button and move around to get where you want pretty easily. So it's not real hard to do it with your laptop. Hopefully this gives you some hope that you can do this within a few hours when you get back from your vacation, and you can start now. You can start your layout now. Even if you don't feel like you have your stories ready to go, if you still need to do editing and stories and stuff, you have most of the photos you're probably going to have, so you can begin your layout and get a lot of that done. You can always replace stories. You can even put in stories now and then replace them. So a lot of things you can start doing this week. During break, if you feel like you need to, you could work more on the editing side. Just take the Word documents with you and work on your editing. Come back the week after, and you've got a whole week, including weekend, when you get back to work on this. If it's not perfect, worry about the design here more than the editing. I will look more at the editing probably with your project 3 when you get the tabloid. So I worry most about the design of this and headlining, stuff that is really obvious. And I probably will kind of overlook a lot of the editing unless it's really stupid, that something you should have caught in your sleep. Then I might have to mark off some of that. But okay, so I'm going to stop the video.